Hey, it's AJ Zulu here. Um, I would like to talk about anti-healing mechanic within both Dota 2 and League of Legends. This is because Dota 2 has created a new item named Spirit Vessel, which does exactly that, and I would like to demonstrate it. Now, first, Spirit Vessel is has a building component from an older item called Urn of Shadows. Now what Urn of Shadows does is that it provides 35 health regeneration when cast on allies, but also does 25 damage per second when cast on enemies, and this is pure damage on enemies, which lasts for 8 seconds. If this is healing and an enemy attacks the person who is targeted, the healing would stop immediately and would be cancelled. This item has changed over the year with different build paths. Now it gives more armor and also gives some mana regeneration, which is very nice. But now Valve seems to want to step it up for this early game item to have some kind of value later on in the game and have some use. So now they created this item named Spirit Vessel, which gives 250 health, 30 movement speed, which is good for supports who are slow, 1 mana regeneration, 2 attributes, which is not that much, and 2 armor, which is just take it. It's good. It's good amounts of armor for support. And what this item does is that it will reduce healing by 3% of current health per second and reduce HP regeneration and healing by 70% and deals 20 damage per second. So the reduces health 3% of current health is just like, oh, you do 3% of the enemy's maximum health per second. But it also reduced the enemy's regeneration by 70% or reduce any healing they take by 70%. And not only that, they would take 20 damage per second as well, which is it's a big improvement from the smaller Urn of Shadows. Also a big it's like 2,000 gold more expensive as well, so it's quite strong. How long does this last again? 8 seconds. Okay. But when it comes to healing, it increased healing by 1% of current health per second. So tanky allies will like this a lot. Before, when in the later stage of the game, Urn of Shadows would have really bad healing effect for your allies when they are quite tanky and have high HP. You'll be forced to use many charges on them over the course of many seconds. So one charge of this could heal up someone to full quite easily. Now for this item, you can't just use it on anyone or right click. This is a cast ability. So as you can see, he's now affected by this anti-healing and he's taking a lot of damage. Now where do you get these charges? So like Urn of Shadows, you get charges by killing enemy heroes, and you just have to be within the range of 1,400 units to gain the charge. Now if there are 2 people with the same item, it would actually be split, or only one person will get the full charge. So it's not that you can get 4 charges just from one kill. No, it's just one urn will get the charges while the other will remain empty. Now I went and killed a few enemies just to have a few charges. So let's just drop these items first and just damage this guy just a little bit. So he's at around 420, and this guy does a healing for 500, so he's 935. Let's get him down again and apply this item. So now when he tries to cast a healing, it's just not as good. Okay, so when he tries to heal himself, he's healing for about 73 HP per second. And that's quite a decent amount over time. Now there's one more hero that, or is the only acceptable hero that does anti-healing, which is Ancient Apparition. Now this item, again, only reduces your healing by 70%. And all the healing you receive by 70%, and does some damage. Ancient Apparition Ultimate here stops all healing, so you cannot heal, you cannot gain any HP at all, and plus you take damage for a period of time. Now I have an item, Aghanim Scepter, which upgrades the skill to have a longer duration. But not only that, with certain upgrades, such as level 25, if the enemy is lower than a certain percentage HP, they would instantly die as well. So there's only one counter to this, which is like either run away and have magic immunity, so you don't take damage from this ulti, or you don't take damage from the enemy team and try to like get away to reset the fight, because there's very few counters to this, because you cannot heal at all, you cannot life steal when under this debuff, and plus this is like a global skill shot ability. But the closer you are, the slower it moves, and the farther you want it to go, the faster it moves. So first there's like a duration, you have to click on it again, and then it would go to a certain distance, and everything in that would be reduced healing. Like this guy can't get healed at all, and he's slowly taking damage. So that's about 500 damage, and that's not even getting hit by the ultimate. Let's try that again. So they have taken even more damage, and it lasts just a little bit longer. Let's try to get him just a little bit lower. And as you can see just now, he didn't even reach 0, but he already died because his HP is already below that certain threshold of, right now it's at 16%, which is because of the upgrades. What is the normal amount again? 16 for, should be around 12, I think. Not so sure. Yep, that guy was below. Let's try this guy again. Let's see when he starts to die. So just around like 800 HP just now, and then his body shatters. That's what they call it. So when you're against like certain champions with a lot of healing, or a team with a lot of healing, most of the time the enemy would respond with this hero, Ancient Apparition, because of his amazing ultimate to just cancel all healing for a certain period of time. Now duration of it is a lot, 17 seconds from Aghanim Scepter, but without it, it's only 10 seconds. But that 10 seconds can mean a lot, and even so, a lot of players would rush this item just to get it up to 17%, because it's also doing that damage per second from 10 to 17. That's a big jump as well. And the interesting thing is just like, there's only one solution to anti-healing, and if you don't have this guy, then you're kind of screwed against other the enemy champion like Alchemist, who gets like around 100 plus regeneration with his ulti, similar to Dr. Mundo. So now in League of Legends, so now there's like an item of like, okay, we know the enemy team has a lot of healing, such as Omni Knight. Later in the game, 500 healing every 8 seconds. That's a lot. Or someone with a lot of healing. We have this item, and with kills, you can like add it to the person who would receive the healing, and their healing would not be as effective. So let's move on to League of Legends, and I'll show you the items a little bit more in detail. Well, first off, there are two champions that apply the debuff called Grievous wounds. Now this debuff applies, makes the target get reduced healing by 40%. Now the first champion that does that is Katarina with her ultimate that can be applied to multiple people in an AoE and various hail of arrows, which if the enemy stands in the AoE, they will also get the Grievous wounds applied to them. So what this means that, again, any person who's trying to lifesteal, their lifesteal will be reduced by 40%, and if someone tries to heal them, their healing will be reduced by 40% as well. Those are two champions with abilities that apply this debuff. Now as for items, so for an auto attacking carry, they will want to go for the Mortal Reminder. This does two things. First, of course, it's mainly bought for the Grievous wounds debuff, which is applied for 5 seconds and is refreshed every time you auto attack the enemy. But it also is an armor penetration item to defeat large tanks later on in the game. You will buy this around 4th or 5th item depending on how the game is going. And as for spellcasters, they will be, and also tanks recently have gotten their own ability to counter like auto attacking champions with a lot of healing themselves. Because if you are a carry, you would buy lifesteal, and your lifesteal would be very powerful. So what can a tank do? So a tank would buy something called a Thornmail, which for Dota players it would be similar to Blade Mail, but without an active. It's just a passive where upon taking hits, the basic attack reflects as magic equal to 10% of your bonus armor plus 25. And here's the main part where it's inflicting grievous wounds on the attacker for 1 second. And then it also gives another unique passive where it reduces the attacker attack speed by 15%, which is a little bit similar to Shiva's Guard having reduced attack speed in an AoE. But the main thing about Grievous Wounds here is that you need to kill a tank, but you would have lifesteal built into you, right? But then this tank then is countering you with this Thornmail, which is reducing your own healing by 40%. So this item is also very strong at this moment and in this meta. So okay, moving on to the third item for spellcasters is going to be an item called Morellonomicon, which is different from the Necronomicon in Dota 2. Here it gives you a lot of ability power. 100 is about above average for these types of items, but here there's a small twist to it where the enemy needs to be below 35% HP before they are inflicted by this debuff Grievous Wounds, but the duration lasts much longer than the other two items. Now the reason why spellcasters, and this item in particular, requires you to make the enemy lower than 35% HP, while the other item, Mortal Reminder, is inflicted right away when you attack the enemy, is because this item is bought very early on into the game. it's like core about the first item to buy on most spellcasters because of the other stats that it gives, such as 20% cooldown reduction, which is quite a lot and decent, and also it restores your mana 20% when you kill someone. And again, 100 ability power is quite a lot, so this is just a small drawback. Spells, there is a summoner spell that reduces healing called Ignite. Now Ignite might be the closest thing to the Dota 2 item because it does 400 true damage over time, 5 seconds, which then also applies to Grievous wounds, while the Dota 2 item it does a percentage HP damage instead. Just this Ignite spell that does like flat 410 true damage, but most of the time this spell is basically used for the early game if you want to be very aggressive and you want to try to get a kill early on. Most of the time people would say that it's less useful later on in the game because 410 HP or damage is not really a lot, especially over 5 seconds, just in the state of this game as far as I have seen. So you would want to use this early on, trying to get an early kill, which the damage would be much lower at level 1, but it can always make the difference between getting a kill and not getting a kill. Or maybe you might die because the enemy has got some kind of healing ability, and with this spell applied to them, their healing will be much lower, and thus they will have a lower chance to killing you or to survive.
Hey guys, I would like to just give a quick update about the item, and which is in League of Legends Ignite, all healing is reduced. So if you are a healer and you are affected by the Grievous wounds, any healing you do to other people or your allies will be affected and will be reduced. While in Dota 2, if you as a healer is affected by the new item, whatever healing you do to other people will not be reduced. Only the healing that is transferred to you or applied to you who is affected by the item will be reduced. Okay, so that I think that's a very important thing to note at the very end. Thanks.
I hope you enjoyed this episode about like just talking about what the two games have to offer. It's very good and interesting that Dota 2 has decided to create an item that reduces healing, and it's the first of its kind, and I think it's a very good iteration into the game since there's no item that does that at this moment. And I hope to see you all next time. And of course, if I get something wrong, please comment in below so I can like fix and make certain corrections. And if there are certain topics that you want me to try to compare, then I'll be happy to hear your ideas as well. I hope to see you all next time. Goodbye.